Hi, and welcome to District Dialogue. I'm Commissioner Mitchell of District 1, and today we've got something very important that you want to really find out all about when the voting season. With that being said, I'm at the newest polling place in Douglasville in Douglas County, and that's the Woody Fife Center. And with me, I've got a couple of guests who's going to introduce themselves and tell me kind of who you are and what you hear and what you represent. And then we're going to get into all the machines about voting. We're going to get into all about the early voting process. And I've got a couple of unique questions that we're going to ask when it comes to voting. So starting with that, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell them kind of your position and what you do here at Douglas County.
My name is Milton D. Kidd. I am the Director of Elections and Registration here at Douglas County. To the left of me, this is Lisa Martin, the Chair of the Board of Elections and Registration.
Okay, so let's start there then. So with that, okay, what is it that the chair does of an election board? Let's start there.
We direct the process, but Milton knows the process.
Right.
So we oversee it.
Okay.
We, if there could be some issues that we may have to discuss and possibly vote on, and just kind of overlook. And on the election day, the actual election day, all of us go and visit all the polls.
Got it.
If it's 5 of us, each will go to 5 polls.
Correct me, is it 24 or 25?
25 polls.
25 polls, okay, got it.
We have 25 election day polls, but we have now, being at this location, we have 6 early voting locations. Woody Fife did the 6 early voting locations. This was the board's, attempt at bringing in one of the populations that tends to vote in heavy capacity, our senior population. So this was Douglas County efforts to make voting easier for that population. So we brought on a 6 early voting location. But like Madam Chair said, we have 25 election day voting locations.
Understood. Well, let me back up so we can make sure they understand, our viewing audience understand. We know who you are. What is it that your title holds and what that you do?
Myself and the board, we basically are the process of elections and registration. Elections just don't happen. We have to program voting units, we select sites and facilities, we train poll workers, we coordinate with those facilities. In most cases, we don't own those facilities. Those are county facilities, those are churches, community centers, that we essentially come into their locations and set up polling locations. Part of that, typically on a 2-year phase, we begin our planning phase 2 years out with looking at the number of registered voters for the county, planning staff appropriations. The state of Georgia has recently gone to an entirely new voting system, which is one of the machines
And
that
that's
you
what we
see
want to
in
chime in.
front
Yes,
of you.
yes.
Is part of this new voting system.
Well, let me stop you there, though. So let's talk about the new system, but let's talk about how we got to this new system from when the state decided to make the change and go to a paper ballot type of a makeup. And you explain more about what that consists of. And start with the dollar when the state took the dollars of a set amount of money that they're going to send out and create this new voting process or machine. And then here we are executing what the state gave us as a new voting process.
Okay, as guidance with that, the previous election system, the machines were called DREs, Direct Recorded Electronics. These are called ballot marking devices. The reason why it's called a ballot marking device, you see that printer sitting next to it. Each voter inserts a voter access card into the voting unit, into this yellow slot that pulls that individual's combination of a ballot. That voter makes their choices on this ballot marking devices, and then they hit an option to print their ballot. The new voting system allows for a digital component of the voting system as well as a verifiable paper trail. That paper ballot is taken at some point. We'll look at one of the voting sites. That paper ballot that's printed out is taken to a ballot scanner. So at the time on election night, we'll have the digital count of those ballots. We'll also have the actual paper versions of those ballots.
Do we take the paper home with us?
No,
Because I think that's the misconception, that you take the paper home with you, but that, from my understanding, that's not absolutely true.
No, that's a misconception out there in the process. You would not want to be able to take the paper home with you because one of the fundamental processes of elections is the anonymity of the voting process. So that paper is scanned into a scanner and we retain that paper ballot that you've just voted. That's essentially another system of checks and balance to our elections process.
Okay, let me ask. So what's new about the new system? Because what I've been hearing thus far is that, okay, we got a new system that came from the state of Georgia to each 159 counties, and now we're voting with this new system. What is new about the system that's frightening everybody to come to the polls and vote?
Okay, what's new about the system? The actual look and feel of the system is similar to the old way of voting. There's still touchscreen units, but what is new is that actual paper version of the ballot. So before, when voters cast their ballot, they voted on the touchscreen unit, and there was a cast ballot option at the bottom right-hand corner. Now there's a print ballot option. So you can essentially think of this as a glorified pencil. It's printing your ballot. That printed ballot is what's really counted. And what's new about the system is we actually can go back after the election and we have the physical ballot itself.
Printed.
We didn't have, yes.
Okay.
The printed ballot itself is the new component of that system. It's also the back end of that system, the election management system, how we actually count the votes. That process changed. Voters don't necessarily see that on a day-to-day basis, but they're able to come to our tabulation center on election day and watch us count the actual votes.
So, because the system, I mean, I'll let you chime in, but the system looks the same. I don't see anything different other than you guys have added a printer here, looks to me, but it's the inner operational part of this that has changed. So I can take the fear out of that from the citizens of Douglas County. It's not like you're gonna walk in there and they got this whole big new system. It's that's the internal operation has changed.
Yes.
And what you can do, when you have completed your voting and you look at it, you can review it. And if you push that button to print it, you can review it. And if it's something that you didn't do, you can ask.
And you can question it then
and say. You can question it then and say,
I didn't do this. Who checked that box?
I want to do this again.
And you can do it again?
You have that option.
Yes.
Yes, you do have that option. He will
will
talk about that option.
Because I thought with the last system, once you kind of plug in and unplug, you done.
Because at this point right here, when you get that piece of paper, you have not voted yet.
Oh, got you. It's the scan part of it is when you've actually voted.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's what voters throughout the state of Georgia were asking for. They were asking for basically a review process to be able to physically hold the vote that they were casting in their hands prior to casting their vote.
Yes, but I think they want to also take home something. But I'm gonna let you finish. They was looking to take home a little something because they was like, I'm gonna take this home, and I know. So when somebody come and ask me, I can show you I voted this, that, and the other. But that's not the case.
And I can tell you firsthand, that may be the inclination of a lot of voters, but you don't really want to be able to take home.
Why?
If you're able to take home that ballot, then I can say this is how Commissioner Mitchell voted. Commissioner Mitchell voted for George Jr. for dog catcher. You don't want that.
Okay.
The process is actually a two-step process. You're giving credit for voting, and then you actually cast your vote. These are two separate processes on purpose, so I can't say how an individual actually votes. I can say that you came in and cast this ballot, and then you came over here and cast the ballot. Those two never actually meet. And I guess the reassurance what people will probably kind of they wanted that piece of paper, don't get it twisted, but they more so wanted to make sure that, okay, this is how I voted because I got a piece of paper that said this is what I did, even though you're gonna scan this into your docs and then move on without it. But I think that reassures them that, yes, I did cast these things on my vote, because I've heard these horror stories that I was pushing the button here and there and I didn't vote for that, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, but by the time they removed the card, it was all over and done. Or I didn't see somebody on the ballot, but by the time you remove the card, it's all done. Here you can kind of say, here's what I got on the piece of paper that you'll scan in. Here's what I did, here's what I assume that's what I did, and that's what I voted, whom I voted for. How are you protecting this from a security perspective?
how are you reassuring the general public that you have actually cast and scanned and that vote is actually your vote that you cast?
There are a couple of different things that we have to keep in mind here. Each of the 159 counties, and Douglas is one of the 159, operates elections independently. At no point in time are any of our voting units ever actually connected to the internet. There is no line running into any of our components.
So those hackers can kind of come through from Russia and create some problems for us.
To actually hack a voting unit, you would have to physically be able to get into a voting unit.
And I got the chair though, so she's like, we got to protect it. You're
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And another side of that too, though, if there's any question, if a race is too close to call, if there's a runoff election, we actually go by the paper printed ballots. On that paper ballot, it shows what the race was and what you cast. That's actually how we count those votes.
Got you. Interesting. Okay. Well, okay. Let's talk about a couple of things that are going on. When this is being aired, it'll be during that voting season. I'm assuming early voting.
Yes.
You kind of take it from there.
We have these handy bookmarks that are available in many places, and if you think you need some, come to the elections office. We have tons of them.
Got it.
We're talking about the presidential preference primary that's coming up March 24th. The registration deadline for that has already passed. So we're doing early voting for that now, and he will talk about where the early voting places are.
Okay, early voting for the presidential preference primary is going on right now at the courthouse. It's one of our locations. Like we mentioned earlier, we've opened a new senior voting location here at Woody Fight. This location is currently voting. As of next week, we'll open 4 additional locations throughout the county, including Dog River Library, Boundary Waters Aquatic Center, Deer Lick Park, and the old courthouse. Going forward for May's election, starting April 17th at the courthouse at 8700 Hospital Drive.
Okay.
Early voting will start for the May 19th election.
Got it.
We'll open the additional sites the following week. So starting March the 16th through the 20th, voters can go to Boundary Waters Aquatic Center, Deer Lick Park Recreation Center, the old courthouse on Church Street, and Dog River Library, and early vote for the May 19th election.
Got it.
But you can always get those election dates and times posted on our website at Celebrate Douglas under the department heading of elections and registration. Those dates are posted. Like Madam Chair said too, we also have bookmarks and elections calendars that are available on our website, and you can stop by our office and pick up copies of the elections calendar
And
as well.
there are opportunities for Saturday voting.
Right.
On Saturday, May 9th, voting will be available at the courthouse. So that's a good thing. As we go forward, on October 24th, Saturday voting will be available.
Wow.
And the Saturday voting dates may change from different counties, but these are the Douglas County dates.
Understood. Because each county, as you stated, well, we have our voting dates and times, but locations varies based on what the county has obligated themselves when it comes to voting.
And could you tell us how many machines that we have here in Douglas County?
In Douglas County, we have 417 voting units that will be deployed for every election throughout the county. But one thing that I want to touch on too, though, for individuals that can't make it out to a polling location or that may have any concerns about coming into a polling location, especially under the current climate with COVID-19 being on everybody's forefront,
Yes.
you can always request an absentee ballot to
Thank
be
you.
mailed to you.
Yeah, speak to that really, because I think that's a great, because I did absentee ballots for a couple of times around and doing that, but I think that's real convenient in at your home that you can kind of take care of this obligation to vote, and it's available.
You don't have to have an actual reason to
Correct.
request an absentee ballot. The process is to fill out an absentee ballot application. You can get that absentee ballot application from our website at Celebrate Douglas. Under Departments, Elections, and Registration, you'll see absentee ballot application. The voter will fill that application out and send that application back in to us. Individuals that fall under 2 protective classes, either elderly or disabled, are able to get absentee ballots for the entire election season. So you can do an application for the current election, and it will get you all of the ballots for this entire election season.
So once I apply the first time, everything else follow, or do I have to reapply each time?
If you meet one of those 2 protective classes and actually indicate that on your application of elderly and disabled, it kicks you over into what's called a rollover list, where you will automatically get the ballot mailed to you for this election year. Now, each election year, you have to resubmit. So this one application will cover you for this entire year. And the elections for next year, you'll do the same process over again.
So what is that, I'm assuming with all the machines you guys have, how are we assuring that the lines are not as long? How are we assuring that, you can kind of get in and get your vote cast? I mean, you never know how many and what that percentage will turn out.
Yes.
But what are you guys doing as the chair and as the director of assuring that these guys will definitely, the machine's going to be ready to go? We don't have any issues. I mean, if they do have issues, can they reach out to you guys? I mean, how does that work?
Yes. We've essentially doubled our capacity here in Douglas County. With the number of units we've deployed. We've also looked at additional staffing because this is what we anticipate as a large election year. We have done a myriad of things, including providing opportunities for individuals when they are participating in early voting. They can call our office to schedule a ride to polling locations.
Okay.
So really, we've taken a combined effort at making sure the access to polling locations is there, the staffing is there, the machines are there, and like we stated earlier, if at all possible, if you're concerned about lines, request for an absentee ballot.
Got it.
Let us mail you a ballot.
So there's employment opportunities.
Absolutely, and we do have more opportunities. So if somebody's looking to be a poll worker, they can contact the elections office and they will tell them what the process is.
Got it.
Yes, we try to bridge the gap in elections from the current voters to future voters. Individuals 16 years of age can go through the counselor at their individual schools throughout all 5 Douglas County high schools and apply for what is called our Student Ambassador Program. Our Student Ambassador Program are student poll workers that are stationed at all of our polling locations on election day that are working as poll workers. It's just an attempt to bring in the younger population and introduce them to the elections process. Because this is our future, and they have to be involved in this process.
And speaking of the process, with your election board, what is that process? What days do you guys meet? How often do you guys meet? Am I invited to the meetings? Can I show up and wave my hand and have a voice or two at the meeting?
Yes, we meet on the second Thursday of every month at 5 p.m.
Yes.
in the courthouse. It's an open meeting to the public. You're welcome to come and sign in and listen and observe. And it's a good thing.
Got it. And that's when you guys kind of had that meeting about, like you couldn't accept, but you had to accept the state.
Well, yeah, we didn't have a choice.
Right. You have a choice in the matter, but you talked about that and kind of how you would disperse them and when and how and what. Yeah.
For example, we lost a polling location because they closed out. It was a church.
That's correct.
And school.
Yes.
So we found a very good replacement. We went to visit them, and they were so cordial and so nice to us, and their facility is off the top.
Got it.
So
Got it.
we're ready for that. And one other thing that I'd like to talk about is on the SOS, the Secretary of State website, Georgia My Voter page. You can use your smartphone, your tablet, your computer, and go in there and check your registration. Or if there are some unregistered voters, if they have a Georgia driver's license or a Georgia state ID, they can go use their phone, use their grandson's phone.
Got it. Yes.
Check it. Check you can vote. You can register, or you can check it, and that's always a good thing to have.
And I'm going to close, and I know you guys get ready for your closing remarks here, though. But about purging, do the state purge, or is it county by county types of purge? Because I hear about this a whole lot about I got purged or somebody purged me out of the system because I didn't vote for the last 2 elections and blah, blah, blah. Help me
List
understand
maintenance.
that. Okay.
List, part of House Bill 316, which passed in the last session of the state legislature, it extended the time frame that you remained on the voting rolls. We don't use terms like purge. It's really list maintenance.
Okay.
What do you use the voter list for? The voter rolls are used for everything from indicating how many machines you have to assign to a polling location, how much staffing you actually need. So you want those lists to be as accurate as possible.
Understood.
Individuals throughout the state, they move out of state. So when that happens, most of the time, we're not the office. The elections office is not the office that people call and say, hey, I've moved. So sometimes you go through those lists to make sure that you have the most adequate and accurate information as possible.
Okay.
So essentially what that list maintenance is.
So list maintenance. Okay, I gotta reframe my term of purge. Okay, so list maintenance, but when that happens, how that happens, and kind of at what time frame is it? Every 2 years, 5 years, 20 years?
Okay,
Or?
list maintenance actually happens. Well, the state has time frames where the entire state goes through and examines their voting rolls. Typically, that's done on what are called off-election years. There are no years where we don't have an election of some type.
Correct.
But there's
municipal and county and or state and federal. Okay.
yes, but there are some years where you have less elections.
Oh, yes.
In the odd number years for the state of Georgia, we have less elections. So it's typically done at that time where you begin to review your list. You look at individuals that may have moved throughout the state.
How would you know though? How would you know that person have moved if they didn't contact you? Or
If there's a question about if an individual has moved, if they have not participated in the process, now it's almost a 10-year process.
Oh, okay.
So if they have not had any type of contact, that's filling out a voter registration form, that's actually voting, that's participating in a petition of some sort, if we've not had any type of contact, we mail you what's called a confirmation notice. The viewers may have seen these little white envelopes that come that say the elections office. When you open that up, it'll say your name, your address. It'll basically say, will you please confirm if you're still at this address?
Understood.
Once we disseminate those, we have a time frame. Typically, it's a 40-day clock that goes on where the voter has the right to return that information. If that information is not returned, that voter is moved to what's called an inactive status.
Okay.
Inactive means we just have not had any contact with you. The voter remains in that inactive status, or can remain in the inactive status, for 8 years.
Wow.
During that 8-year period, if that voter comes in and casts a ballot, if you update your address, if you have any contact with your office, it moves you back to the active status.
Understood. So it sounds like this is an 8 or 10 year type of a window.
Yes, it's a 10-year window.
Understood. Now that we've explained the new voting system, the new voting process, that those who thought it was this whole newness and probably scared them to death, and to me it looks the same.
It looks the same.
Other than you guys added a printer.
It's another
and
process.
now I understand is that the guts of
Yes.
this process has changed. Any closing remarks that you guys like to add and tell our District Dialogue viewers? Before
When
we
you
close?
go to vote, and for some reason you're told that they can't find your name, or
Good one.
ask for the poll manager, and they will come and talk to you. They may call the main office. There are processes to go through. So my urge is, do not leave the voting location. After you've talked to them, you always have the option of asking for a ballot,
Provisional ballot.
a provisional ballot. Would you explain that?
A provisional ballot is a paper version of the ballot, but that paper version of the ballot is sealed. We take the voter's information. That essentially allows us a 3-day window to research what exactly happened in this case.
Understood.
Sometimes individuals have moved and may not have updated their account. You have individuals that register to vote without providing all of their documentation. It allows a 3-day window to provide documentation to clear up any any concerns of your registration. Provisional ballots are a good thing. They allow us to make sure that everyone that's legally eligible to cast a vote is able to cast a vote.
Absolutely, and I'm glad to note that don't leave the polling place. Do not leave. Ask for the manager and say, hey, and if that's a step you can take to say, okay, at least I filled out the information, I cast my ballot, my vote that way. Now, it's not a done deal yet because you guys got a couple other steps.
They have 3 days.
Yes.
They have to come by Friday at 5 p.m.
Understood. So
After that is completed, and whatever the final numbers are, at that point, the board members get together and we certify the results of the election.
Understood. Okay. Any closing remarks from you?
One of my main closing remarks is be on the lookout for educational videos that will walk voters through the step-by-step process of how elections are being conducted in Douglas County. We've tried to make this, I guess, demystify the process of elections.
Yes. Great.
So we have PSAs going on that will walk you through literally every process from walking up to the station to request a ballot to actually casting a ballot. And then if you still need further help, raise your hand at a polling location. One of our staff will be there to assist you.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I
This
really
has been
appreciate
very
it.
good.
Yes, very educational because I feared coming to vote because the system was all new, and the state of Georgia talked about how new this thing is, kind of scaring you about what's new about it is the operational side of it, not the actual system itself, though. So, but
And one thing that we did not mention, next to each of these screens, there are barriers.
Oh, that's right. So people can't see who voted what. Yes, absolutely.
And he looked ahead and saw and ordered the material that we needed, and it works very well.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you guys' service and all that you guys do and keeping out and making sure that our vote that we cast is counted.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Please go out and vote.
Please go and vote. So on that note, thank you, and I appreciate you guys listening and watching District Dialogue. And to my guests, thank you for a job well done. And as stated, the one thing you got to do is get out and vote. Yes. Remember, your voice is your vote, and your vote, it must be cast so it can count. So please, get out and vote this election season. I'm not telling you who to vote for, how to vote, you know, how great these things are, but it's as simple as stated. So when you have a chance, get ahead. Go to the website and grab this little card here as a bookmark and find out all the early votings, all the times that they're voting, all the dates that they're voting. Find out and become an advocate voice in your community by voting. Again, I'm Henry Mitchell with District Dialogue. Have yourself a great one. Following this one, you will find a nice public service announcement that talks about all what we stated in about 2 minutes. So enjoy the day, have a great one, and thank you for watching District Dialogue. I'm Commissioner Mitchell.
My name is Milton Kidd. I am the Elections Director here at Douglas County, Georgia, and this is your introduction to the new voting system that will be going live throughout the entire state of Georgia as a whole, and here in Douglas County for the March presidential preference primary will go live on March 2nd. This is the first station where voters will present their one of 6 acceptable forms of ID to our poll workers. The poll worker at that time will look up the voter and assign them the correct ballot. The voter at this time is going to be issued a voter access card. The voter access card will be how they pull their correct ballot style. This is the second station. The voter will present the voter access card that was created for them at the first station and pull their actual ballot to vote. At this time, the voter is able to take their ballot that they printed out and made their selections to the third scanning station, where your ballot is actually counted. The poll worker at this time will take your voter access card and allow the voters to scan in their individual ballot.